Hi, Jake Smith of the House of Rohl here. In this video, I will show you how to install the rough, flush the valve, and install the cartridge and trim. As I do this, I will highlight some of the great features and benefits of the R45 5-function system. Now, the R45 rough supports 2 cartridges. One version can be 3 dedicated functions and is considered high efficiency for water-saving states like California. The other cartridge can have shared ports and up to 5 functions. The rough is the same, and the cartridges for your installation ships with the trim. Now, the valves are solid brass and made in Canada. You may order the valve in 1/2-inch NPT, PEX, or expansion PEX connections. On all valves, the hot inlet is at 9 o'clock and the cold inlet is at 3 o'clock. There is no reverse cartridge for the R45 if the lines were to be installed in reverse. This is the stud bay. This model is wood, but you may see installations in the field made of 2x4 metal. The first feature is a plastic guard to protect the valve after installation and during the mounting of the solid surface or tile. A plumber will estimate the finished wall and then position the stringer accordingly. The installation depth is a generous 2 inches minimum and 3 1/4 inches maximum. And if needed, there are 3/4 inch and 1 1/4 inch extension kits. The guard has indications that clearly show the minimum and maximum measurements. The service stops are in the open position on removal from the box. To operate the stops, use a standard slotted screwdriver. The stops are open when the slotted receivers are at 3 and 9 o'clock, and you simply turn it to 12 and 6 o'clock to move to the closed position. You will notice that there is a service plug that allows for flushing of the valve prior to the installation of the actual thermostatic cartridge. The cartridge will be supplied with the trim. This is a service-saving step that prevents the cartridge from being damaged prior to flushing. So what we're going to cover today is how to sweat a connection and what the procedures are as far as removing the parts and pieces that may be damaged by heating the valve. The R23, the R45, and the R51, they all share the same type of stop. This stop is held in with small clips. It's very easy to remove these clips, remove the service plug, and then make your sweat connections. The R23, the R45, and the R51 all share something which is good for the installer. There are installation mounts called dog ears that are on the valve, placed at 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock respectively. The valve itself was designed with a flat back so that you could screw this down onto the stringer and then adjust the stringer into the wall for the correct depth. Meant to work in a 2x4 wall, this is a quality valve. So now let's review what we need to do to make a sweat connection. First of all, you have to remove all the bits that may be damaged by the heat. As you can see, you have some rubber parts here, and then you have the plastic service plug. They could be distorted or damaged so that they wouldn't work properly. So you've seen that I've already removed the hot side stop, removed the spring clip. Next, we are going to remove the service plug, and then finally, we are going to remove the cold side clip. These are spring clips that come off easily with needle nose pliers, and then once the clip comes off, we remove the entire stop. Now we're ready to make that sweat connection. The valve was designed so that the inlets would accept a 1/2-inch copper tube. The installer or plumber would make his sweat connections. Now with the sweat connection made, we've already installed the hot side stop and retaining clip that's here. Next, we put in the service plug and spin on the nut. And then finally, we insert the cold side stop with the slotted screw being at 9 and 3 o'clock respectively. Final step here is to put in the clip that holds in everything. The clip is easily manipulated with a pair of needle nose pliers. Once everything is back together again, we're ready to install it into the stud bay. First, let's remove the mud guard and pack a rag or material around the valve to prevent water from getting into the wall. Leave room to access the service stops. The reason there is a service plug is to allow the installer to remove the plug and flush the valve, then install the cartridge. The cartridge is designed to last 5 to 7 years with normal use, but will quickly fail if debris is allowed into the cartridge through an unflushed hot or cold inlet. Verify the stops are in the off position. They should be at 12 and 6 o'clock respectively. Then remove the nut using a wrench and using a cloth to avoid being sprayed by any pressure that might be left in the line. After the nut is off, remove the plug and discard it. Next, we will flush the valve. Plug the area around the valve with a cloth similar material. Leave the stops exposed, and the factory suggests flushing the valve for 20 seconds. We will not do that today, but we will open and close the valves fully so you can see how that operation is done. Now that we have fully flushed the rough, we are ready to install the cartridge. The cartridge is color-coded. As you can see, the blue side is on the right and the red side is on the left, hot and cold. Inserting the cartridge into the cavity, make sure that it seats into the cavity properly, and then we're ready to install the nut. This is probably the most important part of the whole operation. What we want to avoid doing is over-compressing the cartridge, as it will lead to a stiff handle and diverting action. So as you see, I put on the nut hand tight, and now on the directions from the factory, I'm going to draw a line on the nut and on the body itself. Once that line is drawn, I'm going to take a wrench and turn that from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. We can turn it much, much farther, but as I said, we don't want to do that as it will cause overcompression of the cartridge itself, and it will be difficult to operate the diverter and volume control. Cartridge has been installed. We open up the stops. And make sure water is getting to the cartridge, and as you can hear, there is some water that are coming through there. So once we know that the cartridge is operational, we are now ready to install the trim. With the backplate installed, then we put on the housing that fits over the cavity for the cartridge. You'll notice on the housing that there is a hole, a weep hole, and we want to place that weep hole at 6 o'clock. What holds the housing into place is the chromed, what we call a nut. It's not technically a nut, but it is the housing nut that is decorative and will hold everything into place. Next thing to go on is going to be the plate that goes against the wall. You'll see that there's a 1, 2, and 3 for each one of the functions that are here. And what we want you to do is put this on, and then you'll see a logo that's on the bottom that will go at 6 o'clock. Next, we have the diverter trim piece itself. You'll notice that there is a longer screw that's on the bottom, in this case for a handle, and then a shorter Allen key that's on the top. As you're looking at this, put that Allen key that's on the bottom at 6 o'clock, and then with a 2mm wrench, tighten them first a little bit on the top, and then a little bit on the bottom. And this might be the second most critical thing that's in this assembly. These Allen keys hold the diverter handle into place. They must be firm when they're installed. If this is not firm when it's put on, then the whole assembly can slip and instead of having the handle correspond to each one of the functions that's on the plate itself, it could go a little catawampus. So you want to make sure that that is in a nice solid position. Now we're going to put in the diverter handle that goes at 6 o'clock itself. And then we have the screw cover cap that goes on the top. It covers the top Allen key. And then we have the cap. In this case, this cap is a pressure fit, and you'll see that the temperature logo is on there. You want to make sure that temperature logo is readable, and that the arrows that are on that go on the top. This is the R45 5-function shower system. The R45 trim supports 3 plumbing fixtures. In this case, the hand shower, the shower head, and the tub filler. As well as that, you have 2 shared functions that allow you to run 2 fixtures simultaneously. Each dedicated function is activated by the diverter as the handle rotates the markings on the plate. When the handle position is in between markings, shared functionality is achieved. In this case, we have the shower head and the tub filler running together. The handle serves as both diverter and as volume control. I can turn the tub filler outlet from 100% down to 50% and then down to off. The 5 functions can be activated by turning the handle clockwise, as you just saw, or counterclockwise. Turning it counterclockwise, in this case, we turn on the hand shower.